From the land of lakes, this is 10,000 Takes. Brought to you by Minnesota Score Radio. Wally and Eric back for yet another week as we slice and dice the always busy, always topical, super saturated Minnesota sports scene. And Wally, it's been the topic of conversation for days now. What do the Minnesota Vikings do at quarterback after the catastrophic injury to Kirk Cousins?
Can you play?
I've played flag football quarterback before, which is basically what the NFL is now.
Yeah, well, it's
Pitch
an
and
Olympic
catch.
sport now, too. Did you see that? It's official.
There you go.
Get your squad in there, 2028, baby.
Yeah, that'd be fun. But, I was in Green Bay last Sunday. And if you're a Minnesota Viking fan, and there were a lot of purple folks that went over to Titletown, never as a win felt more like a loss.
Yeah.
They had a fairly convincing victory, 24-10. But the Cousins thing just eclipsed it all.
Yeah, and it didn't seem so convincing in the final moments after he left the game because, you bring in a backup quarterback who has never played in the National Football League before, and lo and behold, he fumbles. And all of a sudden, Green Bay is in scoring position to perhaps pull within 7 and they get the ball back again, and they still had all their timeouts. I mean, I'm looking at this thinking, this is just a catastrophe. But somehow Jaren Hall managed to get through it, completed a couple of passes, 2 or 3 passes, and they made their way through it. But if they're going to make their way through the rest of the season, that becomes the new question. And if you're the general manager, what do? Do you go out and get somebody? Do you ride with what you have? I mean, these are all the questions that are going through the head of Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell. And I'm sure that they looked at every list possible of guys they could potentially get and guys that O'Connell has worked with before, too.
Yep. And unless you get that slam dunk offer in terms of a way to get a quarterback that you think will elevate your team, and again, we're recording this before the NFL trading deadline. I think I would look at the opposite approach. I might look for a stud running back and try to become more of a ground and pound team. Well, he's probably on the market in the sense that I want to take the load off the young quarterback if you go with Jaren Hall and have a running game that can bail you out of trouble. And they don't have that right now. They ran it 31 times for 62 yards in Green Bay.
What's wrong with that?
I'm not a math major, but I think that's 2 yards per carry. That's not. You could run it 4 times, and that's only 8. So you got to punt it, or you give it over on downs. So you might want to think about another strategy, unless you can stumble on, Kurt Warner. They need a Kurt Warner, right? They need, or Brock Purdy a year ago.
I was going to say Brock Purdy.
Brock's star is dimming a bit. I still like him, but he's lost
3 in a row, baby.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
And the Browns started him on that. The Vikings continued it. And then who did he lose? Oh, he lost to the Bungles. Yeah.
And they put up 31. I'm wondering about that San Francisco defense that I was so high on.
Yeah. Well, and Cincinnati is doing what they do every year, stumble early and make a run later in the season.
Still keep an eye on the Bengals.
Yes. I would still call them the Bungles.
They might be the best team in Ohio, with apologies to your squad.
Well, they've got the best NFL quarterback in Ohio. I'll give them that. I don't know if they have the best team. Cleveland's defense is awfully good. They shut down Seattle, except for your former Viking OC making a boneheaded move towards the end of the game. Stefanski throwing the ball on 3rd and 2 instead of running the football. You're trying to run the clock out? Which brings me to another point. Kevin O'Connell, what's he doing? He is going to have, if Jaren Hall is going to be your starting quarterback in Atlanta, you've got to cut that playbook in half. You cannot put him into the same situations that you have with Kirk Cousins for the last year and a half.
There's no question.
But what I'm getting at though is he tried to do that in the final minutes of that game. It almost cost him the football game.
If Green Bay's O was able to capitalize, that would have been a much closer game.
Hand the football off.
Yeah, there were drops on the Packers' end. I thought that Jordan Love looked a lot better in the second half than the first half. But you're right. And the package for Jaren Hall has to be much different than Kirk Cousins. First of all, they are not the same type quarterback. Jaren Hall extends plays.
Exactly.
He's more mobile. He's out of BYU. That's a school that gave us Jim McMahon and Steve Young and Ty Detmer. So they've had some quarterback success at BYU. But I think you're exactly right. You have to give Jaren Hall a package that suits him and fits him. And, It's going to ramp up as far as pressure. He's a young guy. He's going to see looks he's never seen before. So keep it simple. And I feel like that's what a lot of these quarterbacks are facing now that come right in out of college, and they're expected to become franchise QBs right away. Now that was never expected of Jaron Hall, but I think we all knew that there was going to come a day when Kirk might go down. And that day's come now, and the Vikings really never seriously addressed the backup quarterback position. Why didn't they get Trey Lance?
Well, this is what I've been talking about for the last several weeks, and even you can make the argument we talked about it last year as well. What happens if Kirk Cousins get hurt? What happens at the end of this season? Injury aside, let's say Kirk stayed injury-free throughout the year, and they made or didn't make the playoffs. What's their plan going forward? He's a free agent, regardless if he's hurt or not, regardless of the fact that he's out for the rest of the season. Kirk Cousins is a free agent. So they had no plan going forward, and none that's visible, obviously. Nick Mullins?
No. And then they've had Sean Mannion in years past.
Oh, Lord.
So they haven't really
I was at the Sean Mannion game in Green Bay 2 years. It was terrible.
And you know, you look at some of the other teams, let's say Dallas. You know, they've had Dak go down at given times the last few years. Cooper Rush able to come in and do some good things for 3 or 4 weeks. Now, in this case, it's probably the rest of the year for Jaron Hall. So you're going to need him big picture, or whoever you get on the market if you make a trade. But the Vikings have dug themselves into this hole because they never truly have had a solid backup quarterback. And it's, you know, you take a look at Indianapolis. They got Gardner Minshew now. You know, Anthony Richardson was their guy, but he's injured. But Minshew's the perfect kind of backup quarterback who can come in and have some success. Last year, San Francisco lost Jimmy G. Now, nobody thought Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, would be 10-0 in his first 10 starts. Now he's 10-3, but he got it done.
Well, they went from Trey Lance to Jimmy G to Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
You know, they had 3 guys lined up there.
And to the New York Jets' credit, you know, all the hype about Aaron Rodgers, he's the man. He goes down 4 plays into his Jets debut. They never wavered on Zach. They kept him around, and I think their theory was, we'll let him absorb from Aaron and maybe learn some things. Thankfully for the Jets, they have, and the Jets are in the chase.
Yeah, well, they gave up on Sam Darnold, and probably rightly so. I see Sam couldn't get a win for the 49ers.
No. So it's going to be interesting moving forward. All right, stick around. We'll talk with Leo Lewis, who used to catch passes and return punts for the Minnesota Vikings here on 10K Takes, your purple ticket.
Finding the ideal place to stay is important for business travelers. Lakeville, Minnesota is conveniently located off I-35, just south of the Twin Cities, with a variety of hotel choices. Lakeville offers convenient amenities such as shopping, walking trails, golf, and more. Our unique meeting spaces, historic downtown, live music, and over 60 dining options are sure to impress. Book your next stay in Lakeville and experience convenience, comfort, and quality. Find your perfect hotel at visitlakeville.org.
The excitement is real at Fond du Lac Casino. With over 650 slots to play, there's always something going on right in the heart of downtown Duluth. Come in to enjoy 2 floors of entertainment where you'll find some of the hottest new games along with a number of the old favorites. Play at your comfort level, all the way up to high stakes where the payouts can be huge. Relax in a comfortable atmosphere and maybe get a beverage while you gather and have fun with your friends. Open 7 days a week so you can
have a great time out at Fond du Lac.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earrings. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision. It's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
10,000 Takes rolls along, and of course, all the discussion about the Vikings and Kirk Cousins. And we thought we would bring in a former wide receiver of the Minnesota Vikings, our friend Leo Lewis, the good doctor. Leo, all right, put your general manager's hat on. What would you do in this situation? Would you mortgage some of the future and get a guy to help you win? Or would you say, well, let's go with what we've got? What would your choice be?
Well, I tell you what, I'm a believer in veteran play. I think that they drafted this quarterback that they're projecting to play and start
Jaron Hall. Yep.
for a reason. For a reason. We didn't know how good of a reason that was, but by all means, when you get drafted in the fifth round, that doesn't really mean that the club is really serious about you taking over the reins. But I would go with having a veteran quarterback come in and play behind this new guy until he proves that he's not worthy. But you had a quarterback in camp for 4 months now. Stick with him. He's taken a lot of snaps, although he hasn't taken as many snaps as Cousins has taken. But he has really got a young mind who needs to be developed, and why not give him a chance? But again, just like Cousins, he's susceptible to being injured. So it'd be good to have on the bench somebody who kind of is a journeyman who is used to coming in and playing a few snaps with no problem.
Leo, how important is it for the Vikings if they're going to commit at least initially to Jaron Hall to prop him up? I mean, I think about Brock Purdy a year ago, Mr. Irrelevant, wins his first 10 games. Now they've lost 3 in a row. A little bit of the air is out of the balloon in San Francisco, but he still had a great start. And then I go back to Kurt Warner when Trent Green went down in St. Louis. And I remember vividly Dick Vermeil crying after that preseason game saying, well, we're going to go to Kurt Warner. We're going to win with Kurt Warner. We're going to rally around Kurt Warner. And they won the Super Bowl. I mean, did the Vikings have to take that approach?
Well, it starts with the head coach being able to articulate to the team, which includes his assistant coaches, that this is what we're going to do. Be definitive in your decisions. And I don't think it'd be unnatural to believe that the other teammates will get behind this quarterback. Hey, they got money on the line, man. And you get more money if you win. So, you're dealt with this blow, these cards. I don't think you need to say much to this new quarterback, but you certainly need to make him believe that he's got the support of all the coaches and his teammates.
All right, so what is it going to be like without Kirk Cousins? What does missing Kirk Cousins mean? You played for 10, 11 years in the National Football League. A quarterback goes down. How does it affect the room? How is it going to affect this room going forward?
Well, it's a roller coaster. You're down right now as a team. Your thoughts about the what ifs hasn't been solidified yet because you haven't gotten to the next game yet. But depending on whether you win or lose, will accelerate the roller coaster either up or down. And let's just say that they win this game. Well, that gives everybody more confidence. If you're a defensive person, focus on what you have to do. Don't worry about the offense. But certainly, I think emotions are going to ride with the wins and the losses. And eventually there's going to come to some normative belief that they're going to be able to do okay for the next 8 or 9 games.
As you know, Leo, with Kirk, it was basically pitch and catch. Very accurate quarterback and a lot of talented targets like Jordan Addison, KJ, TJ, and Jay Jets when he's healthy. Now you got a new guy in there, and you probably don't want to put it all on his shoulder pads and make him throw every down. How critical is it that they start running the ball better, the O-line starts road gritting? I mean, they ran 31 times for 62 yards in Green Bay. With a rookie quarterback, I don't think that's going to cut it.
Well, I think the administration, GM, head coach made a decision way early this year that they were going to pass more than run. And that's evidence of getting rid of Cook and not really replacing him with a top caliber running back. And so I think we start right with that belief that they're going to live and die by the pass. I'm not too disgusted with the running game. It's gotten them 4 wins. I don't know if it really contributed to their losses, meaning not having a running game. I don't have any strong evidence to say they lost because of the run. They didn't have a running game. But at the same time, it's so critical to be able to, when you're winning, for example, or you're in the lead, to be able to to use your running game to dwindle down the clock and to have some control of the ball. Because I really believe all it is about just getting first down. And if you just happen to score, that's great.
Okay, on that same point, Cam Akers got their first rushing touchdown of the year.
Yeah.
They became the last team in the NFL to score a touchdown via the running game, and they got it done against the Packers. Should we see more of Cam Akers?
Well, you know what? That was a good find. I like Cam Akers. He reminds me of Cook, as a matter of fact. I think he's a little bit more niftier between the tackles than any running back that they have. However, he's not an every down back. Probably never will be. But he really complements Madison really well. So yes, we'll see most of those guys. I think having a lot of talent on your team offensively. Why not abuse it that way? And that's to give him more snaps.
After the win over Green Bay, I talked to Christian Darrisaw at Lambeau Field, and he said Jaren Hall came into the huddle right away and took command. Now, you've been in the huddle as a wide receiver. Yeah. How critical is it that quarterback, whether he's a veteran or a rookie, be in charge?
Well, we put so much evidence-based belief in our quarterbacks. It should not matter who is in there. But because of the circumstances, Hall is going to be able to garner a lot of support from everyone. So everybody's looking for him to excel. And I think one of the things that I have always thought about having a quarterback on the bench is that he should have as much belief in himself, but also know the plays, know the system as much as the starting quarterback. And, in this day and age, you have to have a second quarterback who can play anyway. So I think Hall's going to be much more of a surprise than you think.
All right. I need a 10-second answer from you. Do you think Kirk Cousins comes back next year as a Minnesota Viking?
Yes, I do. But I think that decision is going to be made before the draft, though.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Fair enough. Leo, appreciate the time.
Thanks, Leo.
We'll look forward to talking to you again. And next time we'll figure out maybe they'll be on a playoff run or maybe not. Maybe they'll be on a run for a draft pick.
You never know. Well, Wally, Eric, it's always a pleasure, man. Good seeing you guys.
All right.
See you, Leo.
He is Leo Lewis, the former Minnesota Viking, with us here on 10,000 Takes. Back after this.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
Finding the ideal place to stay is important for business travelers. Lakeville, Minnesota is conveniently located off I-35, just south of the Twin Cities with a variety of hotel choices. Lakeville offers convenient amenities such as shopping, walking trails, golf, and more. Our unique meeting spaces, historic downtown, live music, and over 60 dining options are sure to impress. Book your next stay in Lakeville and experience convenience, comfort, and quality. Find your perfect hotel at visitlakeville.org.
Well, you wouldn't know it because of all the frowns because of Kirk Cousins going out, but it was a plus weekend for football fans in the state of Minnesota. Vikings beat the Packers, and your Gophers beat Michigan State, rather convincingly, actually. They ran the football, and Tyler Nubin's brother was the hero. Not only that, he was the Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week. I mean, talk about running back you. I think University of Minnesota Golden Gophers have it.
Well, they had Darius Taylor, the freshman from Detroit, earlier this season getting some, I think, Big Ten Player of the Week awards as well. And
he did.
Yeah, that's 2 straight weekends where Minnesota's had the double dose of wins with the Gophers and the Vikings. Will that continue? Illinois comes here on Saturday. Look, the Gophers are very much in that Big Ten West chase. Now, we know the road gets a little bit more daunting. Illinois is down, but Brett Bielema does not like the U of M. It's a personal grudge going back to his days at Wisconsin. And remember, he played for Iowa. He doesn't like the Gophers. Came in here a couple years ago when Minnesota had what we thought was a gimme game, and he knocked off the Gophers. They lost last year in Champaign, Minnesota did. So you can't assume anything. This would probably be the Illini Super Bowl, right? I mean, they haven't played very well, so this is a game they want.
This is a game they think they can win.
It sure is. Yeah, I'm not drinking that Gopher Kool-Aid, that maroon and gold Kool-Aid. I know you are, and kudos to you. You got him in first place, but I need to see a little more.
Well, what did I tell you?
You better win Saturday.
I told you a couple of weeks ago. I said they control their own destiny. This was before the Iowa game. And they go down and they win the pig. I know you think it's tainted, but they did win the pig.
Floyd fluke.
Floyd fluke. Call it what you want. I call it a W. And then they took care of business in the second half against Michigan State. They started out, they were the fumble Rooskies in the first half. Oof, bad start for the Gopher offense, but they got it going. Defense played well the rest of the way. But I don't know.
Look, I don't want to be Donnie Downer, but I will be.
Well, they're going to get crushed by Ohio State.
Right.
We know that.
What's going to happen here, and this is what's happened in the PJ Fleck regime, and if it doesn't, and I'm wrong, I'll admit it on these airwaves. But I think you're going to look back at the end of the regular season and say the Northwestern game cost them a chance to go to Indy. And there's always been a Northwestern. It was Illinois a couple years ago. It was Purdue last season. There's always that game they should win that they don't win, and it proves to be costly. So now they have to make that up. And really to make that up, I would say they have to win, 3 of their next 4? Minimum.
Well, minimum, because if Iowa runs the table here somehow, then the Gophers are out.
So the Gophers got to win 4 out of 4.
Because Iowa did Iowa have their bye week this past week?
They did. So if you think about it, if the Gophers don't cough up that huge lead in Evanston, they can go 3-1 in November.
Right. They could lose to Ohio State and still win the division.
And it would be a miracle if they win at the Horseshoe. Now you got to find a way to win there.
Wisconsin gave the Buckeyes a little bit of a game. They didn't get blown off the map.
I saw. It was in Green Bay that Saturday night, and they had the Badgers and Buckeyes on one of the TVs in one of the bars in Titletown. But yeah, they wear the all red and everything. They were geeked up for Ohio State, but it wasn't enough.
It's not. They need a new team if they're going to beat Ohio State.
And Wisconsin's
red uniforms are
beatable. The Badgers will be here in a few weeks, but
that's
for the Gophers, it's all about just beat Illinois. You can't look past anyone. At the gym I go to, the father of one of the Gophers' prominent players works out there too. And this was before the Michigan State game. And I said, well, this is one you should get. And he says, we never assume anything in our household.
Boy, that's for sure. I don't blame him. All right. We've got one more segment to go. Takes of the day coming up next. Stay with us.
The excitement is real at Fond du Lac Casino. With over 650 slots to play, there's always something going on right in the heart of downtown Duluth. Come in to enjoy 2 floors of entertainment where you'll find some of the hottest new games along with a number of the old favorites. Play at your comfort level all the way up to high stakes where the payouts can be huge. Relax in a comfortable atmosphere and maybe get a beverage while you gather and have fun with your friends. Open 7 days a week so you can
have a great time out at Fond du Lac.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
10K Takes on television as we wrap up yet another episode. We'll get to takes of the day here in a couple of minutes. I did want to tell you on my trip to Green Bay last Sunday as I was wandering around the tailgate scene, me and my crew, we bumped into Glenn Taylor, the owner of the T-Wolves. I'm assuming he took the private jet over because he was at the Timberwolves home opener against Miami Saturday night, and then he's in Green Bay in time for a noon kickoff Central Time. His wife was with him, Becky. But first trip ever to Lambeau for Glenn Taylor. And he said he had always wanted to see a game in Green Bay. And I think it just goes to show you that's a magnetic tug that Lambeau has on people to go to see a game there. It doesn't matter what you think of the Green Bay Packers. It's just people need to see a game there if you like football.
You think he bought some of those $80 tickets off Vivid to sit up in the bleachers?
Yeah, I don't know if he sat in Ziggy's suite or if the Packers took care of him or what.
Somebody did.
Yeah, but he was there and he was excited.
Yeah, well. It's always a treat to go to Lambeau, no matter who you are, apparently, right? Even if you got a guy that's got millions of dollars.
Yeah, a billionaire excited to go to an NFL game.
Yeah. And cheer for the Vikings. I heard your interview with him.
Yeah, he's a former Minnesota State Senator out of Mankato, and he's a Minnesota guy. There's no question. So maybe he brought him good luck.
Yeah. Well, let's do takes of the day because I have something to say about his NBA team.
We'll find out if what your demeanor is. Angry American, grumpy guardian, happy camper. What are you today?
Well, it's not specifically about the Timberwolves. Well, it kind of is. The Timberwolves opened up at home, as you just pointed out, against the Miami Heat. This was this past Saturday night. And if you're an NBA fan, you go out and you spend big bucks because you want to see, sometimes it's not just the home team. You're interested to see who's coming to town to play against your Minnesota Timberwolves. Well, lo and behold, this time, it's Jimmy Butler, he who left here unceremoniously a few years ago, and has led Miami to the NBA Finals and has been pretty good. Has had a pretty good run of success as a member of the Miami Heat. And along with him, Kevin Love, another former Minnesota Timberwolf on that Miami Heat squad. So you're all geeked up. You're going downtown. You're going to watch the Timberwolves play, maybe get a chance to boo Jimmy Butler, or maybe just get a chance to cheer him because you like the way he plays. Well, then you find out Jimmy Buckets has taken the night off. He's too tired from his earlier game in the week. Heck, they played a game earlier that week. They've played one whole NBA regular season game. Time to put him on the shelf for one night. So they do. No Jimmy Butler, no Kevin Love. And so you go and you spend all this money, and this is something that the NBA said they were addressing. They said they had a rule in place. Adam Silver, what exactly is that rule? What's the punishment for the Miami Heat for putting those two guys on the shelf and not playing in Minneapolis this past Saturday night? This is the one and only chance they get to see Miami this year because Lord knows these two teams probably won't be in the NBA Finals. So here's my chance to go see Jimmy Butler, and they decide, now we're going to put Jimmy Butler on the bench for the night. Way to go, NBA. Way to go, Adam Silver. How about actually enforcing the rules that you've now put on the books?
Well, let's see what that mood meter says. Oh, wow. Just as I suspected.
Well, what did you think?
Grumpy Guardian in the red zone. Yeah, load management is a load of fertilizer. I don't disagree with you. And let's even go back a few days before that. Connor McDavid in Edmonton taking on the Minnesota Wild. No McDavid. They said he was injured. But funny, he was able to play a few days later when they had that big outdoor game up there against Calgary.
Really?
Yeah, really.
All right. Well.
So it's even on the ice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of ice.
Stay home and watch it on TV.
Yeah,
that's my advice.
Save your bucks.
Yep.
I'm going to talk some baseball. And as we know, the World Series is underway, and your favorite commissioner, Rob Manfred, has to be elated. He's got Texas and Arizona from a weather standpoint.
Right.
They both play in retractable roof venues. It's a Sun Belt series. Weather just not an issue here in 2023. But let's pretend for a moment. Let's fantasize. The Minnesota Twins weren't that far from a World Series appearance. What if they had gotten there? Think about games 1 and 2 last week. Temps would have been in the mid-20s to low 30s at trendy Target Field, which would have been the frozen confines, right?
Yes.
If there's a game 6 and 7, which ironically would be in November, and there should never be baseball in November or March.
Agree.
Come on, get it right. They'd have the same situation weather-wise. So I'm sure that Manfred and the rest of MLB is happy the Twins did not advance to the World Series. It would have been bundle up big time.
It's going to happen someday. Minnesota or Chicago or Cleveland, one of those teams is going to get back in there.
Detroit.
Even Boston, for that matter.
Yeah. All right, we got to go. Let's FedEx out those thank yous. One to Alex Yambrick, Paul Langfellow, David Weld, Rocky, Leo Lewis. For Wally, I'm Eric saying so long. This is 10K Takes, your sports ticket.